Good afternoon and welcome back to Moneycontrol live stream. You're watching the closing bell. I'm Santosh Nair.
And I'm Yatin Mota.
Indices snapped a 9-day winning streak today, mainly because of a huge sell-off in IT shares. Infosys fourth quarter numbers fell way short of market expectations, and that led to a big selling in technology stocks across the boards. There was a large number of downgrades also for the stock, and Yatin will be telling you more about that in a short while from now. Interestingly, there was good demand for mid-cap shares today. These stocks, most of them managed to hold ground in a falling market. The India Volatility Index, or VIX, rose by about 2.7% to close at 12.23. In sectoral trends, gainers were mainly among PSU banks, auto and realty. Interestingly, interest rate sensitive stocks managed to see good buying interest today, whereas among the prominent losers were largely IT shares. Among Nifty gainers, Nestle, Power Grid, SBI, Coal India and Britannia figured, while in the losers corner were Infosys, HCL Tech, Tech Mahindra, L&T and NTPC.
So सैंटो क्लियरली 9 दिन की जो तेज़ी थी उस पर एक ब्रेक लगा, और ब्रेक इसीलिए लगा क्योंकि HDFC बैंक और इन्फोसिस ये दो रिजल्ट्स जो आए लास्ट वीक उसको मार्केट आज रिएक्ट करता हुआ दिखाई पड़ा, और ये दो स्टॉक्स टू बी स्पेसिफिक लगभग 150 पॉइंट नेगेटिव साइड पे कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहे थे। HDFC बैंक की बात करें तो ऑब्वियसली जो ओपेक्स है, जो ब्रांच एडिशन है, उसके वजह से कॉस्ट ज़्यादा है, जिसके कारण प्री प्रोविजनिंग प्रॉफिट्स सिक्वेंशियली आपको फ्लैट टू डिक्लाइनिंग आते हुए दिखाई पड़े। ऑब्वियसली 20% ग्रोथ का फिगर HDFC बैंक हमेशा डिलीवर करने में सक्षम रहता है, लेकिन सैंटो क्लियरली IT पैक में हमने देखा हाउएवर डे लो से रिकवरी थी, लेकिन क्लियरली बहुत ज़्यादा प्रेशर के साथ TCS और इन्फोसिस के रिजल्ट्स के बाद पूरा का पूरा IT पैक इम्पैक्टेड रहा।
Well, in a way, the numbers have been really disappointing as far as Infosys is concerned, but market, if you look, had already positioned for this some time back. After peaking out in April, on the whole, IT stocks never really managed to regain those levels despite repeated rallies, and yet the numbers that have come in from Infosys has turned out to be below what the market was expecting. What's the sense you're getting, Yatin, speaking to people in the market as to the outlook on IT shares? Because the numbers of course have been disappointing, but over the last few months you've seen them moving in a narrow range. So are they kind of bracing for a worst case scenario?
So yes, because if you look at TCS's commentary, TCS ने ये कहा कि अगले 2 क्वार्टर तक क्लाइंट्स को किसी प्रकार की आइडिया नहीं है कि किस टाइप का रिसेशन या स्लो डाउन होगा, और इसीलिए क्लाइंट्स जो है इंक्रीमेंटल ऑर्डर्स नहीं दे रहे हैं। इंक्रीमेंटली जो फियर है वो बढ़ता हुआ दिखाई पड़ रहा है क्लाइंट्स में। तो येस, क्लाइंट कॉन्फिडेंस इज लो, एंड IT कंपनीज ये बिलीव करती है कि अगले 6 से 8 महीनों तक कोई क्लैरिटी इमर्ज नहीं होगी, बिकॉज इन द नेक्स्ट 2 क्वार्टर्स हमको आइडिया लगेगा कि US किस हिसाब से अपने इंटरेस्ट रेट्स पॉज कर रहा है, इन्फ्लेशन कैसे शेप अप हो रहा है, इन्फ्लेशन डिक्लाइनिंग फेज में है या नहीं, या रिसेशन हो रहा है या नहीं हो रहा है। तो लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस, एंड वी हैव सीन द US markets and European markets slightly weaker in terms of consumer sentiments and purchaser demand. So yes, there has been some issue. Macro level headwinds are there, and if you look at Infosys also, they delivered a -3% constant currency growth. They have narrowed, or rather cut their margin guidance. They have cut their revenue guidance versus the market expectations, because of which there was multiple downgrades. But there is one silver lining, Santo, that if you look at the IT pack in terms of valuation, they are nearing the pre-COVID levels. तो कोविड के बाद जो है IT स्टॉक्स ने एक बड़ा पीक बनाया, और जो करेक्शन अभी हो रहा है IT स्टॉक्स में, जो अगर हम P मल्टीपल्स देखें लास्ट 10 ईयर एवरेज का, तो यहाँ से अगर इंक्रीमेंटली 5 से 7% का करेक्शन होता है IT पैक में, तो एक वैल्यूएशन कंफर्ट पे पूरा IT पैक आ सकता है।
My counter argument for that, Yatin, is that typically valuations tend to reflect the kind of expectations that the market has from a particular sector or a company, and since you're now actually seeing valuation shrink, probably it's also an indication that market is not really optimistic about the growth prospects. That said, let's quickly move on to the stocks on a watch list this afternoon, starting with HDFC Bank. Yatin mentioned some bits of it. I'll just go through what most analysts have been saying about HDFC Bank. Now, the stock closed about 1.5% down in today's market. According to CLSA, which is positive on the stock, deposit and loan mix have been the key positives from the fourth quarter numbers, and as Yatin also mentioned here, operating expenses were on the higher side because of more branch additions, and as a result of that there was a miss on the bottom line. According to CLSA, while the operating expense part has been on the higher side, clearly the asset quality is showing signs of improvement, and that does provide some cushion to the profit and loss statement. According to Digant Haria of GreenEdge, the deposit growth, while it has been good, is clearly coming at a cost, which means that the bank is having to offer higher rates, and the rates are the highest that have been seen in over a decade now. And according to Digant Haria, the stock is fairly valued at these levels, and a breakout on either side looks unlikely.
Absolutely, and the next stock on our radar is Infosys. Obviously, as I was mentioning, there was a big miss on the constant currency revenue growth. Margins also, if you look at the outlook, it has been cut further. So it was a double whammy. We are looking at slower growth coming in at lower margins, and hence most of the brokerage and the analyst community have cut the EPS estimates for Infosys by 8 to 10%. Obviously, a whole host of downgrades coming in on the stock. Let me talk about CLSA first, and they have downgraded it to a buy from outperform, and the target has been lowered to 1550 from earlier 1800. Valuation multiples have been also cut. Nomura also has downgraded Infosys to neutral. Target price is cut to 1290 from 1660. So very steep target price cut by Nomura. And JP Morgan, usually the views of JP Morgan, as a house for IT are respected, and they have sharply cut, the ratings to underweight and target price to 1200 from 1500. तो 300 रुपए का target price JP Morgan ने cut किया. और अगर हम अर्निंग्स एस्टिमेट्स की बात करें, मैनेजमेंट कमेंट्री की बात करें इन्फोसिस के लिए, तो काफ़ी डिसअपॉइंटिंग रहा है. ऑब्वियसली टीसीएस के बाद इन्फोसिस दूसरी कंपनी थी जहां डिसअपॉइंटमेंट हाथ लगा है, और ये दो कंपनीज बेल वेदर हैं आईटी कंपनीज के लिए. तो यहाँ से अगर इंक्रीमेंटली विप्रो, एचसीएल टेक्नोलॉजीज, परसिस्टेंट सिस्टम्स जैसी, टेक महिंद्रा जैसी कंपनी अच्छा रिजल्ट भी देती हैं, तो भी जो है फियर स्ट्रीट का ये है कि दे विल फॉलो द सूट सूनर और लेटर. तो पूरा का पूरा आईटी पैक आप देखेंगे नीचे था. इनफैक्ट आज पूरा आईटी इंडेक्स जो एनएससी का है वो 5.5% नीचे था. टीसीएस में थोड़ी बहुत रिकवरी थी डेज लो से, एचसीएल टेक्नोलॉजी में थी, बट इन्फोसिस देखिए लगभग 10% की मंदी के साथ ये स्टॉक बंद हुआ.
Yatin, after every quarterly earnings, there's always the slight debate which is better at this point. Is it TCS or is it Infosys? And Infosys seem to be having a slight edge over TCS just prior to this earnings. Probably.
So I think for the last 3 quarters, Infosys delivered better than expected numbers versus TCS. In fact, TCS underperformed, and probably that is the reason why their outgoing CEO, Mr. Gopinathan, was criticized. That he is not compromising on margins and only focusing on high value deals. But अब वो ये क्वार्टर से सैंटो रिवर्स हो गया, क्योंकि 3% CC revenue decline clearly means that whatever good you had done for the last 3-4 quarters in terms of outperformance, I think now it's a level playing field, and probably from long-term investors, clearly TCS will remain a favorite.
And with that, let's move on to the last stock on my watch list today, Mahanagar Gas. The stock managed to hold firm in a bearish session today. In general, sentiment for gas companies, city gas distributors have improved after the Kirit committee report was recommendations where Kirit Parekh committee recommendations were accepted by the government, and Mahanagar Gas management was on CNBC TV 18 today, and the management has said that it has passed on the benefits of lower gas prices to its customers, and across the city gas distribution sector, prices have been cut by about 5 to 8 rupees per kg. MGL has logged a volume growth of 15 to 17% in each of FY22 and FY23, and the company has said that it's expecting a growth of 5% in volumes from FY24 onwards. Now, there's some concerns among analysts as if how much gas these companies are actually sourcing from under the administered price mechanism, because that will be a key to profitability. Mahanagar Gas has said that 86% of the gas will be sourced under APM and the rest from term LNG. However, Yatin, the kind of juicy margins that were seen for gas distribution companies, that somehow seems unlikely to return in a hurry, which is what the most analysts are saying, and also that could be one reason that despite the recommendations having been accepted, you're not seeing a big bump up in the stock prices.
Yeah, but I think a lot of these stocks, gas stocks, have run up in that anticipation of Kirit Parikh committee recommendations being implemented, and that's what happened. But Mahanagar Gas, I think their acquisition, which they announced recently, that also led to some re-rating of the stock, and now stock is trading good 4 digits. Has been an underperformer, but yes, with the new management and the new strategy, probably there is some room for a re-rating. Santo, let's talk about the last stock on my radar, which is Tata Motors. They've increased vehicle prices once again, almost by nearly 1 percentage points, depending on variant and depending on truck models. Obviously, this is the second price hike which the company has taken in 2023. बट जो फ्री कैश फ्लो का मैनेजमेंट का गाइडेंस है और जो JLR को स्पेसिफिकली लेके वॉल्यूम्स में इम्प्रूवमेंट होगा, उससे शायद टाटा मोटर्स के स्टॉक को काफ़ी सपोर्ट मिलेगा इन टर्म्स ऑफ अर्निंग्स ग्रोथ. क्लियरली फर्स्ट हाफ में हमने फ्री कैश फ्लो नहीं देखे हैं, लेकिन मैनेजमेंट काफ़ी कॉन्फिडेंट है कि सेकेंड हाफ में जो परफॉर्मेंस रही है, स्पेशली Q4 में, यहाँ अच्छा प्रदर्शन रहेगा. और एज वी मूव इनटू द न्यू फाइनेंशियल ईयर, यहाँ भी आपको दिखेगा कि JLR के वॉल्यूम्स, स्पेशली चाइना ओपनिंग अप थीम और जो पेंट अप डिमांड है इंडिया इमर्जिंग मार्केट्स और US मार्केट्स में, यहाँ भी आपको अच्छा खासा प्रदर्शन दिखेगा. तो टाटा मोटर्स ये भी रखिए एक स्टॉक रेडार पे. प्राइस हाइक्स तो की हैं और वॉल्यूम्स में भी आप देख रहे हैं ग्रेजुअल इंप्रूवमेंट आता हुआ दिखाई पड़ रहा है.
Well, the December quarter numbers showed a significant improvement, yes, Yatin, and that is yet to fully reflect in the stock price, which is still not gone past the record high, not record high exactly, the high of 510 which it had, yes, seen in January this year. So, bulls would be expecting or hoping for a repeat of similar strong performance. JP Morgan at this point seems to be the only lone bear on, yeah, Tata Motors. JP Morgan has said that the kind of strong sales in commercial vehicles that you have seen, that is slowly returning to normal, and also inventory levels are also returning to normal. So, these two factors could probably put a lid on the company's operating performance. And with that, it's a wrap on this episode of Closing Bell. Thank you for watching.
जुड़ने के लिए बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद.
We'll be back with you again at 9 AM tomorrow, and in the meantime, for all news, views, analysis, stay logged on to moneycontrol.com.